A new day for border security, with a new president working directly with Governor Greg Abbott. We'll look at the coordination plan, the price tag, and the hope the feds will kick money to Texas to pay for Operation Lone Star.
General Paxton, can you talk about what you're doing to reduce the backlog with the Crime Victims Compensation Fund?
And after more than 2 years of investigations into the Crime Victims Division, the Texas Attorney General calls for more resources to help those still dealing with loss.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. This Sunday, Governor Greg Abbott officially sets his agenda for Texas lawmakers by issuing his State of the State address. Top issues will include education savings accounts, a contentious topic last session. But perhaps the biggest issue will concern Texas's renewed focus on the border with Mexico. A number of moves have happened in just the first 2 weeks of the second Trump administration, and Governor Greg Abbott officially called on state agencies to work with the new White House. He issued 5 new executive orders this past week, from directing state agencies to assist federal immigration officers, including investigating, arresting, and deporting people in the country illegally. He also directed the Texas Military Department to cooperate with U.S. Armed Forces on the southern border. State agencies will also assist the feds in deploying additional border barriers, such as buoys in the Rio Grande. Likewise, Governor Abbott directed state agencies to share intelligence on foreign terrorist organizations such as Mexican cartels. And finally, he ordered the Texas Department of Criminal Justice and the Facilities Commission to identify detention space for anyone caught in the U.S. illegally. The Senate Finance Committee heard from the governor's office. One of the biggest topics was the potential of the federal government to reimburse Texas for the cost of Operation Lone Star. Chief of Staff Robert Black told the committee Governor Abbott has had positive conversations with the Trump administration about getting $11 billion.
I would probably have better luck predicting the weather next month than predicting what Congress is actually going to do. But I can assure you that the governor is putting forth every effort possible to get those funds back to Texas.
Senate Finance Chair Joan Huffman was not optimistic that the state would get reimbursed, but hoped for help moving forward. Huffman noted Texas pays $200 million per month on troops at the border.
Currently, they're there under the orders of Governor Abbott, and therefore we're paying for it. Just a simple change of who's ordering them down there. If we could get the feds to order them down there, then the feds would start paying for it. To me, that would not change what we're doing. We could have more help from the feds, but that would be one way to save us $200 million a month.
Black told the committee discussions about border deployments are underway with the administration. He added new Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth could soon come to Texas to see border operations, but the cost so far to Texas has some worried. Texas State Senator Sarah Eckhart wants an audit.
It's not enough to look good. You have to actually do good. And we don't know yet what good we've done with the expenditures we've made so far. And we also don't know what kind of damage we've done.
Governor Greg Abbott's pledge of more support to track down and arrest immigrants in Texas illegally comes at a time when the Department of Public Safety already faces staffing shortages. Capitol Bureau reporter Dylan McKim breaks down why the agency's director asked lawmakers for enough money for 500 more troopers.
Colonel Martin.
In this hearing room below the Capitol building,
You can come on up.
DPS Director Freeman Martin spoke about the state of his agency, where just outside the Capitol, his troopers are facing various threats and being called on to do more.
We had 5 deployments this weekend that we weren't expecting.
State troopers have played a big role in Operation Lone Star, tasked with catching criminals who get past Border Patrol. Colonel Martin says most troopers are volunteering to deploy, likely for the overtime pay. But deployments to the border and increased responsibilities are leaving fewer troopers to do other duties, like patrol state highways.
So that's how you can go back and forth from Austin to Houston, Texas for months and never see a trooper.
The agency is asking for 500 more troopers to fill those gaps. And the Texas State Troopers Association is calling on the legislature to approve that funding.
Why are we still appropriating state dollars for border security?
The current budget proposal in the Senate calls for $6.5 billion for border security. DPS spends about $2.5 million every week for travel and overtime payments related to Operation Lone Star. But even with the new administration in power, Colonel Martin believes his agents will be assisting federal agencies even more into the future.
If we were to pull out and just say, let the feds do it totally, we would lose a lot of ground and put Texas in jeopardy. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Dylan McKim, State of Texas.
When I called my case manager, every time it went to voicemail, and every time I left a voice message, I never got a call back.
You should be prepared to wait up to 6 months for your claim to be reviewed.
Held up, an investigation into the state's embattled crime victims fund. For more than 2 years, we've been investigating this division out of the Texas Attorney General's office, and the many viewer tips you've sent us about long wait times for payments and severe backlogs for help. Now, for the first time since we uncovered the staffing and funding issues behind those problems, the Attorney General himself laid out what he says his agency needs to keep up, and what he really thinks about investigator Matt Grant's relentless reporting.
General Paxton, can you talk about what you're doing to reduce the backlog with the Crime Victims Compensation Fund?
Attorney General Ken Paxton had nothing to say to us.
General Paxton, the Crime Victims Compensation Fund.
Can you reach out to our press office?
We have.
Okay.
We've reached out for a year. We haven't heard back. We're just trying to get answers on behalf of crime victims.
The silence isn't new.
We haven't heard back, so we're here in person to try to keep getting answers on behalf of victims.
For more than a year, Paxton's office has ignored our attempts to get an update. But at a Texas Senate budget hearing Tuesday at the Capitol, the AG did respond to lawmakers.
The Office of the Attorney General is committed to performing its duties with excellence.
Lawmakers say they are looking to inject the division with around $40 million in lost federal funds.
We want to give you what you need. We want the victims to have what they need.
They asked Paxton about the attack on a DPS office last year that killed 2 people and their funerals, which led to a discussion about the agency's $6,500 cap on burial expenses for crime victims.
I was like, wow, $6,000 for a funeral doesn't pay for the funeral. It doesn't even get close to it.
It definitely needs to be updated as far as costs.
The agency is also proposing more transparency in response to our investigation, which exposed its own performance metrics were skewed by averaging victim claims, which last year were taking on average nearly 8 months to process, with rape kit exam reimbursements to hospitals, which are paid directly and within days.
So if anyone who's been sitting around Austin has seen the KXAN reporter who likes to talk about how terrible the Office of the Attorney General is for combining these two numbers, which is what we are required to report, which is why we are proposing to separate those out. Our numbers did not, I think, properly reflect the work that we were doing.
This Senate committee presentation is just the first step in the legislative session's budget process. The House must still hear the AG's proposal, then the two sides must come together on a compromise for a final budget by the end of May. Their decision will have a direct impact on the amount of funding for crime victims and how that division operates for the next 2 years. We will continue updating you on this story. At the Capitol, Matt Grant, State of Texas.
The AG is asking for a 6% salary increase to keep and attract staff and says they are targeting 90 days as a realistic number to make a first payment on victim claims. This is an issue Matt's been tracking for 2 years, and our coverage even led to a new state law. Catch up now on our complete reporting. We have a link to this story on your station's website.
This is our time to kick off some conversations about water supply long term.
A growing state thirsty for investment. The hope from some that the Capitol will turn on the flow of money to build up infrastructure to make sure we have water.
Why should all these other states take advantage of this investment, but not Texas?
Exactly. We shouldn't have to shoot in Georgia.
A Hollywood ending made right here. Lone Star screen icons lobby lawmakers about injecting new life into the local entertainment industry.